The seven biggest mistakes that millennials make when purchasing car insurance is that they ignore the discounts that they're already qualified for. The generation of millennial is typically wanting to do everything online, everything digital. Well, most of the platforms, your Geicos, your Progressive, your Allstates, your State Farms, they don't necessarily have a system set up to show all the discounts. So they go through as much as they can because they know that your attention online is limited. Now, they don't maliciously cut it out because they know that you're not even going to get through the quote at the end if you don't go through the questions. Now, some of the discount questions you're going to find is things like, are you part of an alumni association? Are you part of a certified nursing association? Are you an RN? Do you have a specific degree, either in engineering? Are you part of a credit union member? Are you part of the Harley Club? There's a lot of different discounts that apply. And I'll link a video at the end that goes through the top 10 that most people miss. But one of the bigger things that mistakes are made with millennials is because of the digital platforms and the carriers not putting all the data up front, you're not going to see as many or as good of a price that you're looking for on your car insurance. The second is probably a catch-22. It's using the same company that your parents used. Your parents in their 50s and 60s are not typically going to have the same price that you have. Those are the preferred type of clients that everybody's looking for. And when in your 20s and 30s, you're a little bit higher of a risk. So a lot of different companies are a better fit for different scenarios. That's why when you work with an independent agent, they get all the data and get your profile set up, and then they shop you across multiple companies. If you are looking for new insurance, I'll put a link in the description below where you can work with an independent agent. One of the great pieces is that if you work independently, you don't pay extra for it, and they're able to check those options for you. We're going to list the top 7 companies here in just a moment, and 6 of the 7 usually work with independent agents, so it's easier to shop that route. But going with your parents' policy or your parents' insurance carrier isn't always the best solution. Now, one, it is good if they have a really good agent and they know what they're doing. It's better for you to have a little bit extra cost, but know that you have the right coverage. So making sure that the agent has your best interest in mind, as well as your budget, is going to make the most sense. But be careful that you don't just follow your parents' insurance before you shop around. The third is a lot of millennials are doing different types of jobs where insurances don't cover those situations. DoorDash, Uber Eats, Uber drivers, what's called a rideshare program. If you're going to purchase a policy and you do any of those types of driving, you need to make sure that the carrier that you go with actually offers insurance for that. Yes, it's a little bit more of a premium per year, but it makes sure that you're covered so you don't get sued and lose everything that you're working towards. The fourth mistake that most millennials make is not updating your policy when there's major life changes. If you purchase a house, there's an opportunity to get a multi-policy discount. If you move out of the state or out of the country or out of different areas, then you may have a better risk area than where you're going to. Not making those changes and letting your insurance company know could also cause you to lose a claim and not be paid on a claim if they're not aware of it. It's your responsibility to advise them of those changes, but in most cases, there's a bigger benefit to you if there are major changes coming up. I've got multiple people that are purchasing new cars, fiancés are being added to policies, and where fiancé was paying $150 to $200 a month, now they're only paying $100 a month because we're able to combine everything and put them on one policy. It's one of the benefits of having an agent that you can trust and work with that's going to get you those better prices, knowing the situations that are coming up. Number 5 is something I am actually familiar with, is accepting rate hikes when they happen. If you know you're with the right company and you like the rate and it goes up somewhat, and we've seen more than a 40% increase with a lot of carriers, that doesn't mean that you necessarily should accept that rate change, because you likely could be a better fit for another company. Now, I'm in that same situation. I could save an extra $50 to $80 a month if I switch from company A to company B, but I also have to figure out the coverages that I'm carrying. I've got a package, it comes with a whole bunch of stuff. If I reduce that package, am I going to save that extra $30, $40 a month that makes it not worth switching over? It just depends on how comfortable you are. Plus, you got to think of longevity discounts that are also available. Make sure you talk to your agent if you are in a scenario where you're debating of shopping that. Find out if there are scenarios where it does make sense to stay a little bit longer and then shop a little bit later. Number 6 is only getting quotes from big brands, and the big brands are probably dominating everything because they're the ones that can adjust their rates a lot heavier than the smaller brands. The smaller brands can make more pivotal movements, but they're less likely to because they have to protect what we'll call the goose that laid the golden egg, right? We got to protect that goose so that nothing happens and the company doesn't go under. We've seen companies in states like Florida go completely completely insolvent, and that's because they were smaller. They couldn't afford or withstand some of the claims that have happened that they didn't prepare for. Sometimes the weather just goes crazy and it's not really anyone's fault, but if the company can't pay those claims, then they just can't be in business anymore. So going with the major box carriers is a good fit in a lot of cases, but that doesn't mean that the smaller guy is actually a better fit and a better price for similar coverage and service levels. The biggest, which is number 7, in my opinion, is only focusing on price and not the coverage. You've probably heard it from your parents. You've probably heard it from everyone under the sun. Don't just buy the cheapest thing. In insurance, it is one of those things that the saying that you get what you pay for actually falls true. Now, there is a limit to it. You're going to pay for a cheaper price is going to give you a little bit less service, a longer claim time. So if you need your car quickly, you're not likely going to have it right away. The parts that they use, some companies use used parts and they'll go to the junkyard, pick them up, slap them on your car because technically your car had a used part on it. They have to make you whole. That's the reason of insurance. And putting used part technically makes you whole. So they can do that with most carriers. Now, most carriers don't do that because they'll charge the extra price. They want you to be happy with the service and the time frame and all of those pieces. But because of the industry being so hectic, all of the prices that have gone up, all of the restrictions that have come into play, all of the possibilities of more increases and whatnot coming down the road, then carriers are a little bit limited on the number of staff that are coming in the door. There are some companies that aren't paying enough to keep a service person because they can't afford. It's a business, right? So if they can't function properly, you're going to get a better deal, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a better policy. Okay, so who are the top carriers for millennials? Number 7 is a company I'm not a fan of, but they're in my list. They're called Root Insurance. If you're looking for a cheap deal and you're in an area that they insure, they'll usually give you a good price. As long as you don't have a lot of tickets, no speeding, all of those pieces have a good, what we call a motor vehicle record. That is essentially your driving habits. They're going to give you the best rate based on how you drive. So they're going to track how you drive. You're going to have to do it all digital. There's no one to talk to, so it's just a digital platform. There's no agents. You have to go through the 800 number. You're always talking to someone new, if you can even talk to someone. So just know that they're probably one of those things you get what you pay for. They're going to be the cheaper deal if they're in your area, but they're not necessarily going to be the best fit for most people. Number 6 is Liberty Mutual, also known as Safeco. Those two are combining in the next probably 12 to 24 months. So eventually they'll just be called Liberty Mutual. For that sake, we'll call them Liberty Mutual. They are one of the better companies if you add what's called their Right Track. It's a 90-day program. Just like Root Insurance we talked about, they're going to track your driving habits, make sure you're a good driver, and they give hundreds of dollars off if you do well. So you can save a ton by having that. It's up to 30% off, and they do what you want. They have 100% digital management on your policy where you have an app and you can constantly look at your ID cards. You can make changes. You can still go through your agent because you do get an agent. You don't have to. You have both options to work in both scenarios. Most of them allow the ride sharing that we talked about, so you can typically add on that additional endorsement that allows you to do Uber or Lyft and all of those things that if you're looking to do that, that's an option. Now, Liberty is a little bit more expensive, which is why they're number 6 and not at the top. But in general, they're one of the companies that gives you what you pay for, and they're more likely to take care of your claim quicker and quicker and faster. The same thing. They're going to handle it quicker, and their service levels are really high. They're one of the top service levels that I've seen as far as an insurance carrier. Number 5 is one of my favorites, and it's the one I was actually thinking of moving to, is Nationwide, because they do 2 things that are pretty unique. They have what's called Smart Ride and Smart Miles. Smart Ride is where you do the same thing, 90-day app, you can save hundreds of dollars, it's telematics, all of those great things. The Smart Miles is one where you can actually just pay per mile. So if you're a low mileage driver and you're less than 5,000 a year, you'll probably save more if you let them track your driving. You pay a lower base fee, and then you just pay per mile if you go above that. That's one of the benefits of having a company like Nationwide. They're the big guy, but they offer unique pricing. For those of you that want renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance or liability insurance, motorcycles, boats, all those things, Nationwide also is competitive there, especially if you plan on having a good income down the road. You may want something called an umbrella policy or a liability policy, and they're one of the better priced companies that combines all of those things together. Number 4 is Allstate, and they've kind of slipped a little bit. They're 4 on this list, but I I don't know, it's a 50-50 for me, but they are competitive in some scenarios and in some areas. They do offer, I believe, a pay per mile in select areas, not as much, but that's an option. They have a ton of add-ons that do accident forgiveness, similar to most companies. You're gonna have Nationwide does that as well, and some of the other carriers that we're gonna mention, there's extra cost. I personally like the accident forgiveness, especially if you're a good driver. It happens. I see it happen a lot. And if you're younger, you're going to have a huge rate increase. Well, now you won't have any, because if you have that first accident, then they can forgive that. And essentially, you don't pay the extra cost. They have the DriveWise program, which we have a video if you are interested in learning about the DriveWise program. That'll go a little bit more in depth on that. And again, you get a local agent, as well as you get the digital presence where you can access your policy online. Number 3 is a company that's starting to explode, and you've heard of them a lot, but they're starting to work with independent agents. I've actually helped work with some of their higher ups to build a program for our state locally, and it's Geico. Geico Insurance is one of the more competitive price-wise. They're good if you have a ticket as well. So if you have a little bit of a scratch on your record, they're going to be the one that you're going to lean towards. Well, now you don't have to just go straight to Geico and work with any random 800 number answer the phone call person who may or may not be in training, don't fully understand, like all of those things. You can work with independent agents that actually work with Geico. We actually have a ton of Geico policies, and they've been super competitive compared to the second and first one that we're going to talk about here in just a moment. They have really good discounts for military. They have really good discounts for students. They are really strong for renters if they offer renters in your area. So they have a lot of base pricing that's better. Kind of the get what you pay for, but they're one of the better service levels of the get what you pay for. So if you ever seen the commercial, they're 90 some odd % accuracy as far as customer satisfaction. Now, take that with a grain of salt, because it's their marketing and their promotion. It could be in one category. But in general, I've seen them be pretty decent. You know, now that I think about it, when I was younger, when I was 18, I actually got in an accident. I was insured with Geico. They paid my claim within about 2 weeks or less. Actually, I think it was 3 days. Deer jumped over my car, hit the top of it, dented the car. I didn't actually repair it because you could barely see it, and I got $900. I was pretty happy, and it worked out really well. So they do have that option of where they can just write you the check and let you go on your way. That leads into the second one, which is State Farm. And State Farm is decent with younger drivers, mainly because their risk tolerance, even though they tout that they're not good with high risk, I've seen them really good with high risk. And to be honest with you, most independent agents were independent. Everyone that, at least most of the people you talk to, if you fill out that in the description below for the quote, they're going to be independent most of the time. They will push you off to State Farm a lot. It sounds kind of weird, because when you're not a fit for them specifically, that's the first company that they offer you to go to. Now, it's changed a little bit because State Farm is a little bit pickier, where if you hadn't had insurance in some states, you can't get it right away. You got to wait a few days. There's different scenarios that they may or may not be a good fit, but they have the Drive Safe and Save. That's actually my #1 video watched on this channel. So if you want to learn about the Drive Safe and Save, it's that telematics. It does that 90-day or whatever program, and then you can get some savings on it that will help you save money down the road. The biggest thing for them is they have a bigger reputation. They're the #1 carrier in the nation, and part of it is their pricing, and part of it is their branding. They're really good at branding. Jake from State Farm, that's just one of the big names that are out there. They just have fun with it. Even though they're not my #1 carrier, I do like the fact that they don't always talk about price first. They talk about coverage first. And that's one of the few things that you see these big box companies don't do. So if you are looking for something like that, the only thing that you have to know is when you talk to a State Farm agent, that's the only thing they can quote. So they're not comparing options for you, where these other companies work with Progressive and Nationwide and Liberty Mutual and Geico and all of those guys. They can just shop them all. Your State Farm person, if they're competitive, great way to go, but that's the only thing they can offer you is their State Farm policy or their backup to their State Farm policy. #1 I've made a bunch of videos on is Progressive Insurance. They are one of the lowest base prices, but they're very digital focused. They want to give you the app. They want to show you everything digitally. You don't even have to get ID cards anymore. You can just pull them up. They also do rideshare. They also do international licenses. They also are competitive with young drivers. There's just a ton that Progressive does. And on top of it, they're one of those get what you pay for, but in a good way. You pay a little bit less than normal because their costs are typically less, but you also can work with an independent agent, And you can also have a good service level. Plus, if you don't like the service level, you can call your independent agent and they could start talking to the service team to try to fix your issue that you're having. If there's ever a conflict, the only thing that you have to be a little bit careful with is they are a little bit strict. So they're what I call gray areas, and they don't like to play in the gray areas. If it's a no, it's a no. If it's a yes, it's a yes. And having the type of policy where some of these carriers are like, we don't really know if that's covered, we'll just pay it. Progressive is one of those that is a little bit more strict on when you tell them something, they hold you to it. They also offer a rideshare program, although theirs is a little bit better and worse. It's better in the fact that you can get a really big discount, 30% off as well. You get 10% today. It's great. But if you do bad and you don't drive good, or you put in your car and you forget all about it and you're just doing wheelies in the parking lot, they're going to give you a worse price. So you're actually going to pay more, where those other ones, they just take the discount away. That's the only negative I honestly have with them directly, but they are one of my go-tos when we need a really good price and when we need to break up the policy. When we don't want the home and auto mixed together, Progressive is good alone on its own without having to add the renters, where companies like Nationwide are honestly really competitive, 30 to 40% less if you combine a renters with them. So if you're combining policies, Nationwide would be my go-to. If you're going monoline, I would go to Progressive. Either way, an independent agent can help you with it. If you have one locally, call them. If not, links in the description below. Like I mentioned, there's a couple things you need to know. One, what coverages are you supposed to carry when you're purchasing a policy? Oddly enough, I made this video for Millennials initially when I made it, but it's my Car Insurance 101 that's going to go more in depth to teach you the coverage that you should be carrying or that most people are carrying. If you're looking for that discount video I just mentioned earlier, my 10 discounts are going to be very helpful here. I'm Mark with Think Insurance. I'll see you in the next one.